We're just a few days away from NFL Week 5, and the Dolphins are keeping busy. They made 3 roster moves earlier today. Plus, we have major Dolphins injury news to discuss on Austin Jackson and Darren Waller. But make sure you do follow us over on Instagram. At Dolphins Today IG is the handle. We're 33 followers away from 1,200. Help us out. You get more short-form content in between our YouTube videos over there. All right, the roster moves that Miami made today, they just made a couple of them official. We reported on the Cedrick Wilson Jr. signing yesterday, but it was made official today with Miami placing Tyreek Hill on injured reserve. His season is obviously over. But the other roster move that Miami made today was in addition to the practice squad. They signed linebacker Caleb Johnson, and I want to meet the newest Dolphin. This was a 2021 UDFA out of Houston Christian. He spent 2022 with the Chicago Bears, 21, but then 3 straight seasons with the Jacksonville Jaguars. He was ultimately waived following the 2024 season, was with the Falcons for the 2025 preseason, but then was waived again, and then now the Dolphins bring him in to their practice squad as a depth piece at the linebacker spot. This is a physical 6'2", 220 backer who has appeared in 65 games in his career, but really hasn't done anything special. 38 tackles, 1 forced fumble, really nothing crazy to go over here. But I just like to, anytime the Dolphins ultimately make a roster move, keep you guys informed because that's our job, right? No matter if it's a massive trade, whether it's a signing in free agency, or a roster move where they add someone to the practice squad. We're always going to keep you covered. And coming up here in just 1 second, we got some Dolphins injury news on Austin Jackson, on Darren Waller, so stay tuned for that. But I did just tell you why you should be subscribed. I mean, quality daily content for free. Subscribe, turn on your notifications so you never miss a piece of content we put out because we do have you covered all the way from game reactions and breakdowns to practice squad roster moves. The main injury news I want to touch on today is Austin Jackson. He was placed on IR following week 1 with that toe injury that was just lingering around during the preseason. He made the return for week 1, but then re-injured it in the second half. Well, he is eligible to return off of IR in week 6 against the Chargers following this Sunday's game in Carolina. Well, he was seen at Dolphins headquarters today, still in a walking boot and on a scooter. And Verones points out he'll probably need more time than when he can first come off IR next week against the Chargers. And that is really brutal because, 1, you hope Austin Jackson recovers as quick as possible, but 2, the Dolphins' right tackle situation has been an absolute train wreck this season. They signed Larry Borom to be their swing tackle this year, and it just has not paid off in a good fashion for them. And I could have told you that because when the signing was made official back in March, we told you how bad he has been for the Chicago Bears in his career. Well, he's had to start now 3 games, week 2, week 3, and week 4. It's been terrible. He's one of the lowest graded offensive tackles in all of football. You see his PFF grades on screen. You see his rankings in the NFL on screen. He is 95th overall, 90 in run blocking. Like, it's just a train wreck for him. He's given up 2 sacks, 10 pressures. It's been awful for Larry Borom. The amount of reps he loses just as soon as it happens, and it's like non-competitive. It's just brutal. So we need Austin Jackson back ASAP. Both him and James Daniels were eligible to return off of IR next week following this Sunday's game against Carolina. James Daniels has a legit chance to return, but it does not sound like Austin Jackson will. So I will be honest here. If Larry Borom struggles again this week against Carolina, when are we going to see the Dolphins potentially make a switch at right tackle and go with Kendall Lamb, who played right tackle for Miami last season when Austin Jackson got hurt and was pretty solid before he got hurt and missed the final couple of games of the season? Like, I don't know why we haven't made the switch already. Larry Borom has been atrocious. Let's shift over now to Darren Waller, who only played 16 snaps in week 4 against the Jets. Obviously, his debut for the Miami Dolphins, which was a phenomenal debut. 3 catches, 2 touchdowns, 27 yards. Well, he said it to the reporters today that jump should be happening in terms of a snap percentage, snap count, if the coaches feel comfortable with him doing that. He feels good right now following his return to NFL action, and the coaches were just being cautious from his first game. And he also mentioned that the injury that set him back in the preseason was a quad strain, not a tear, which Dan Le Batard said it was, but not the case there. And Darren Waller will need him to take a larger role. And it's crazy to say this because I was such a negative I'll have to say I was a negative Nick when it comes to Darren Waller. I said they should cut him. I was unsure if he would ever play for the Dolphins. It seemed like another Will Fuller, Odell Beckham Jr. type of situation. But after watching him move around the field on Monday, he looked like he still had the juice. And if he's healthy, he'll be a massive target for Tua Tagovailoa. You already saw him target him on a key third down on the opening drive of the game. You saw him target him on fourth down in the red zone, another time in the red zone. This is where Darren Waller will be utilized over the middle of the field, creating mismatches on third downs and money situations like in the red zone. And Tua even mentioned it in his presser today, saying that the touchdown pass to fourth down on Waller, where he floated it over the head of a safety in between two people for a touchdown, where Waller just high pointed it and toe tapped in the back line, called it eye-opening. It was a trust throw for him to get up there and make a play like that. Gives him kind of an insight on what kind of ball he can throw to Waller. It gives Tua more confidence that in one-on-one situations and tight windows, he can put it high and let the athletic 6'6", 240-pound tight end go up and get the ball. And that's what Darren Waller did his career in Las Vegas, which made him a top 3, top 5 tight end in all football when he was in his prime in that 2018 to 2021 window playing for the Raiders. More coming up here in a second, but this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every single day. Well, with the right decisions on PrizePicks, you can get paid where it is good to be right. PrizePicks is the only app that offers stacks, meaning you can pick up the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. Want to pick more on Devon Achane receptions, receiving yards, and rushing yards? Well, now you can pick all of them in the same lineup only on PrizePicks. PrizePicks also offers injury reboots. If one of your players leaves the game in the first half and doesn't return, PrizePicks will not count it as a loss. Already have my entry in for Week 5. More than Chuba Hubbard rushing yards. Now, he does have a little bit of an injury, and he is day-to-day, so we'll ultimately see if he plays on Sunday against Miami. But more than Jaylen Waddle touchdowns, as well as more than on Cam Scatterbo rushing yards. Join me, download the PrizePicks app today, and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. We also have some more Dolphins updates. Mike McDaniel did speak to media today and provided insight on Cedrick Wilson being signed, Cam Smith being waived, and I wanted to kind of go through some of what he said because I found it fascinating what he said on both Cam Smith and Cedrick Wilson. Plus, we'll have an update on Ryan Crow, the linebacker coach, if you can remember the situation there. And we'll start with Cam Smith, though, because McDaniel said in a team sport, it just didn't play out the way you see it when you invest in a player like that. Second-round pick in 2023. We pushed for all efforts, and it just didn't work out. Maybe it's a lesson he learns from. I wish him the best. Mike McDaniel was also asked if they would bring Cam Smith back to the practice squad following the release. McDaniel said that is not going to happen. And there was another interesting quote when asked about if he can summarize Cam Smith's time in Miami the last 2 years. Mike McDaniel responded with one word: time. Pretty clear that the coaching staff was not very fond of Cam Smith, the way he worked, the way he prepared. They call it professional maturity. I don't know what happened inside and outside the building, but it certainly seemed like Cam Smith lacked professional maturity, which is the reason why he never was able to see the field for the Dolphins. And when he ultimately did see the field, it wasn't very good. All right, let's get over to Cedrick Wilson now, who will not be practicing this week, but will return to practice next week. Obviously, Miami just signed him. It was made official today. There was a minor procedure Wilson had a couple weeks ago. Mike McDaniel said that the team was ultimately aware about that procedure and the injury for Wilson before adding him to the 53-man roster. I'll add this, okay, sure, you might have known about that, but why are you signing a player that you know is not going to be able to contribute? Not that I expected him to be able to, and I've widely said he's going to be a healthy and active anyway until an injury occurs to the top 5 wide receivers Miami currently has. But the point remains, why are we signing a player that's banged up? Well, Mike McDaniel shared some insight on why that was the case. He said the consistency and playmaking ability and ability to play without the ball, he played to a high standard here. As we looked at his tape with New Orleans, he hasn't lost a step, in our opinion. I said this yesterday on the siding. Mike McDaniel and Chris Grier really value familiarity. McDaniel's scheme is not an easy one to pick up quickly. So when they try to add someone as depth or just a late addition, they like going after a player where they feel could contribute right away if they need to due to the familiarity with the system. Wilson's that wide receiver 6, probably only going to be active if Nick Westbrook-Ikhine gets injured because NWI is our physical, big-bodied X-wide receiver now. Cedrick Wilson may fill that void if NWI got hurt. But it's truly Jaylen Waddle, wide receiver 1 season. Yeah, you'll still see a lot of Malik Washington in the slot and as a gadget guy. Westbrook-Ikhine likely as that other outside wide receiver at times and in certain formations. But I'm excited to see Jaylen Waddle officially as his team's wide receiver 1. I said it before the season that he's going to be the wide receiver 1 going forward after the season because the Dolphins were always going to either cut or trade Tyreek. Obviously, the injury kind of fast-tracked that. But I'm excited to see Waddle as the lead dog here. He's more than capable of being a wide receiver 1 in the NFL. Mike McDaniel said today that he feels like Waddle's been a wide receiver 1 already, and he feels very confident with Waddle manning this wide receiver room. I feel confident. McDaniel feels confident. I know Tua feels good about it. So let's go roll 17. Go make some plays, baby. Let's do it. What's your confidence level in the Dolphins wide receiver room without Tyreek Hill? Scale 1 to 10 for me. I still feel pretty good. Do I think it's the best room in the world? No. But take Tyreek Hill off of it. I still think it's a top half wide receiver room in football because I do like Malik Washington, and I think Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is going to be able to step up and make some plays. Rounding out the show here, Andy Slater had the scoop earlier today that Ryan Crow, the Dolphins linebacker coach, who was placed on an administrative leave in August before the season began due to his arrest and charges of potential domestic violence, those charges have been dropped. Now, that report came in today by Andy Slater, so this begs the question, are the Dolphins going to bring Crow back into the building as their active linebackers coach? Well, that will not be the case. Mike McDaniel asked about that today, said there will be no procedural change in terms of bringing back Crow. He is still going to be on administrative leave, and that likely won't end, and Crow would not return to the Dolphins coaching staff until the NFL completes its investigation and determines if there was any truth to the wrongdoing of the charges on Ryan Crow. Obviously, them being dropped makes things a little bit maybe more clear, but the NFL is still going to go through their process of looking to see if this is a thing they are going to potentially suspend Ryan Crow for. So we'll keep you updated on that. Make sure you are subscribed. Like I said, daily content here. We'll be live on Thursday afternoon to preview Week 5 and then live on Sunday for Week 5, Dolphins versus Panthers. Subscribe and join the channel.